Welcome back to another Inner Edge podcast where we sit down with leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals who aren't just successful in business, but who are helping people build better lives. Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions most of us will ever make. Today's guest has spent many years helping individuals and families navigate that journey with clarity and confidence. Whether you're buying a home for the first time, upgrading, investing, or simply trying to understand today's housing market, this conversation is packed with practical insights. Erez, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited for this podcast. Before we dive right in, can you tell me a little bit about, and tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and how the journey into the mortgage industry really started for you?
Sure. So I grew up here in Edison, Highland Park. Been in the business for about 26 years.
Wow.
And when I was graduating from Touro College back in the day, everything was admin assistant. And one of the headhunters said, well, what about mortgages? I'm like, all right, let me hear about that. My father knew someone locally who owned a mortgage company. And I started there just helping out inside, nothing crazy. And then it led to moving to a different company. And then 26 years later, still in the business.
That's amazing.
So it's been a long journey, but grateful for it.
What you focus on in terms of mortgages, is it investments? Is it first-time home buyers? And give some advice to people that are first-time home buyers in general.
Right. For people buying their first home, primary residence, and investment as well. In today's day and age, I've helped so many people in the past that I'm actually helping their kids at this point.
Wow.
So that's kind of crazy that now different generation, people buy a condo and then they want to move up to a single family. So part of my business is from past clientele, and then the other part is from local realtors and just people who know me.
What do you find separates someone who is a successful mortgage broker versus somebody who really, struggles in the business?
I mean, look, it's a very hard industry. People think it's easy, especially when rates were low. There's a lot of refinancing, a lot of opportunities. For most of us, this is 100% commission based. So you eat what you hunt, basically. Right. Persistence is the key to keep on going and expand the areas that you're in. So it's just being consistent. It takes a while. I mean, you're building your own business in essence, just like a realtor. You start from nothing. So it's constant networking and calling and emailing and waiting for the opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find the profession's changed since you started 26 years ago and today? We have a world that's shifted so fast with technology and AI. Do you find the way you did a mortgage 26 years ago, back in 2000, versus today, 2026, is a completely different ballgame? Or do you feel it's still the same, networking, connecting with people you've helped, and AI just enhances your performance?
So AI is still new in our industry. I think AI will definitely enhance our jobs. I don't think it will take over. I remember back in 2000, the internet and taking over, I was really nervous about my job being eliminated, but clearly that has not happened. There was more programs available because it was not as regulated. So today, everything is regulated a little bit too tight sometimes, but the process is overall the same when you're dealing with a qualified individual who's earning an income. But then there are creative financing options for people who, let's say self-employed, they write off a lot of their income. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, you were able to do that at 5% down, no income verification, where today, now it's 25% down. So they've changed it, definitely less risky with these products because there's a lot of skin in the game, right? So the overall business is definitely evolving, and I'm not sure what the next 5 year looks like.
Like you mentioned, 5% versus 25%. Is there something you can, let's unpack this, for example. Somebody wants to get into buying a house or two homes as a personal investment or investment for the future. What do they need to have? What are things that are, in their favor? Is it a credit score?
So we look at credit, income, and assets, right?
Okay.
And debt, right? It's really debt versus income. Mm-hmm. As a first-time buyer, you could put as little as 3 to 5% down today as a primary home. And then as an investor, you can put as little as 15%, but it's too expensive, so no one does it. So in essence, 20 to 25% down for an investment non-owner occupied property. And The higher score you have, the better the rate will be, because everything today is based off of your credit score.
Wow.
So 780 and above is the best. Anything below that, you will pay more in interest rate. So credit is so important today to have a great credit score.
And so a lot of times I've seen people personally try to apply for a mortgage thinking they have the most fantastic, credit score, but sometimes the indicators are not accurate. Are there specific websites or ways to identify for any person thinking of buying a house to see what their actual real credit score is?
So it's funny, today someone called me and I said his credit score was X, and he's like, but online it's showing me on my bank app much higher. So I explained to him all these free credit reports, whether it's Credit Karma or your banking app, those are called Vantage scores. It's basically a different scoring model, and the scores are much higher sometimes than the FICO score, which is what lenders use. But interestingly enough, the industry is now allowing the Vantage score, and that's actually going to open up a lot of people who may have had, let's say, a 620 credit score on FICO to now have, let's say, a 700 Vantage and help them qualify. So it's very new in the stage. Only a handful of lenders have adapted that so far, but that will definitely help. So when you see online those 850 scores, more often than not, it's not 850. It could be 790, but sometimes it could be 620 or 630. They're not accurate at all, unfortunately.
Okay. And if you have two people, let's just say a husband's income is over 100,000, his wife's income is 50,000, and they want to apply for a mortgage. Would you look at both of their incomes and both of their scores versus just one?
We look at both, but you take the lowest person's score. So if the husband has great credit and the wife doesn't have as good credit, it will cost them more. And I'll suggest dropping, let's say, one spouse, assuming the husband makes enough money or the wife makes enough money, and then just have the loan in their name, but on the title and deed, both of their names. So you could save money. And most clients are okay with that. It's very rare that I have someone who says, nope, I want to be on the mortgage, I'm willing to pay more for it. We want 50-50. It has happened to me, but not that often.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
How do you define a successful mortgage broker in today's world?
You're closing loans, closing loans and making an income. If you're not closing loans, you're not making an income. So
have you seen people struggle in that?
Sure, people struggle all the time. It's a very hard field to get into. It's a very flexible job as far as make your own hours, but again, you're 100% commission. So
totally.
It was one of the fears that I had going into this, and it took me a good 2 years to really make money. And there's plenty of times where I was going to give up, and I'm like, I feel it, I'm almost close, and thank God I did not give up. 26 years later, thank God it's still going well. Different years, you make less, you make more, but the lifestyle as far as being your own boss, there's nothing like it.
So what kept you, I guess, going and persisting despite all the frustrations, difficulties, and challenges, and not really seeing results in the beginning?
Well, I was pretty young at the time, right? So at the time, I didn't have that many expenses. I was living at home. Not having the responsibility financially definitely helped say, well, let me give this more time. If someone wants to get into the business right now and they don't have a wife or a spouse that's working, it's very hard to just start from nothing. Because remember, everyone has a relationship, right? So when I call upon realtors for an opportunity, there has to be a reason why I'm better than who they're giving it to. So a lot of times you're just the backup guy that if their guy messes up, you're available. So you're constantly networking for that opportunity, keeping in mind that everyone has an existing relationship already. And that's the hard part. And thinking back how hard it was, it's hard to think if I'd start again.
Wow.
Because it was that difficult.
Right. You have to form new relationships, reach out to existing ones, and then see.
Also, I was 22, 24 at the time, and you have no experience, and you're asking for people to give you an opportunity, right? And I think back, it's like, wow, they gave me an opportunity, but people do, because people connect with people, they like you, they trust you. So that's how it works. It's a relationship-driven business.
Yeah. What is your number one source of generating leads as a mortgage broker today? Is it speaking to other realtors? Is it brokers? Or is it other
I'd say
ways?
A nice percentage is just from realtor relationships, and then the rest is really from past clientele.
Okay.
So I'm constantly marketing my past clientele, constantly marketing realtors, trying to show value add where maybe I'm different from the next person. And that's really how I get my business. It's mainly realtors, all self-produced, nothing is paid for. I don't buy leads at all. There are companies that will buy leads and then it's just a numbers game. That's not how I run my business, but it's a referral-based business at the end of the day.
Since you mentioned that, how do you look at somebody as a first time or second time home buyer and say, there's Erez, then there is somebody else and somebody else. How do you differentiate and see who you'd want to go with?
You mean from the consumer standpoint?
Yes.
So it's a great question. I really pride myself when the client calls me up and they're referred by whoever. I really spend a lot of time up front, pre-approval, making sure that everything will go smoothly. So when I give them that letter, I know we're not going to have a problem.
Okay.
I also do a lot of stuff by video and technology where I record everything so they understand what the closing costs are, what the payments are in different price points. So by the time they're done with my videos and all the technology, They have a very strong understanding what they're going to expect. Believe it or not, a lot of lenders don't go through that. And I can't tell you how many times I'd get phone calls saying, they didn't really go over that. I'm like, that's crazy. I said, all I do all day is give information. I'm not selling you anything. I'm a resource. Of course, I want the business, but I'm giving you information. I'll be transparent. I'm competitive. And that's what I do. So I differentiate myself by using video and technology, spending more time up front with the client, which most lenders do not go through because it takes more time and effort.
Right.
But my close ratio is definitely higher. And if I'm up against someone else who didn't do all that, I'll win every time just on presentation.
Education is really a big part of what you do.
That's all I do.
That's all you do.
Educate. And then there's a whole process beyond that.
Powerful. And in today's world, especially, the young generation, they might have the technology, but they don't have enough information, and they need someone like you to educate them and to walk them through. And I think one conversation I had with a realtor recently was what they need is, the number one thing they need before they even help a client is a pre-approval. So that's why I think your profession is so vital and important. Without it, a lot of people won't be able to buy a house.
Yes, and I can't tell you how many times I get the phone call from, let's say, a realtor or attorney saying, we have a problem, can you help out? Wow. And there's been times where I'm able to swoop in and help out. And there's other times I would say these people clearly were never pre-approved because based on the information, there's no way they could have gotten a pre-approval. And unfortunately, there are still lenders today not doing their due diligence. And then you're wasting everyone's time, the client, the realtor. They spent money on home inspections, appraisals to then find out that they were never properly qualified. It happens every day.
Can you walk the viewers or anyone who's watching the do's and don'ts of going through receiving a mortgage, the things to get from your employer, the documentations and what needs to really happen and what people unfortunately miss or don't do the proper way?
Sure. So when I pre-approve a client, if you're a salaried employee, it's much easier. We just pretty much ask for 2 W-2s, last 2 pay stubs, and a month of bank statements. We run your credit, we see how much you have versus debt versus income, and then we give you the letter. But the key is to review the documents, because if I told you I made $100,000 and I didn't tell you, or you didn't ask me, well, are you hourly? Are you salary? Are you commission? What's your base pay? Is it overtime? You would assume that I make 100.
Right.
But if you do some digging around, but then you find out the year before I made a lot less because it was overtime, you just gave a letter that's potentially not going to work out.
Wow. So
you have to actually review it, ask questions, and really understand what their situation is. If someone's self-employed, it's a deeper dive into business tax returns. Does someone make $300 a year and they write off $200 in expenses and now they only show $100? So if you don't get that information and you don't review it, right? So when I write a letter, it is solid. Like the realtors in town know if I gave that letter, it is solid. If you're a listing agent and you get my letter, they know I'm going to pull through because that's my reputation. They know I've done my homework. And that's key. And this is a relationship business. So
Right.
the realtors who are on the other side, it's a powerful thing when they see my letter. They go, Erez, we know closes. We never have problems. Let's accept his offer because we know he's going to go through, versus, let's say, someone who has another letter where the realtor doesn't know who they are. It wasn't properly verified. So that's why the relationships with realtors,
Trust.
this is a trust
Yeah.
business. I always tell clients, when people shop around. We all want great deals, right?
Right.
I always tell the client, I'm a consumer as well, but I always tell them, I'm not selling you furniture. Maybe this is $500 less somewhere else and you can buy it, right? It's just a piece of furniture. But with me, it's non-tangible. It is the coordination of everyone involved. And there's so many people involved from start to finish that you want to have the person walk you through it, right?
Wow.
So it's like a contractor. You don't want the lowest bid.
Right.
You want the fair bid with someone who used them, who has a great reputation. And there's a lot of rates online, and I have to explain that a lot of times lower rates equal higher closing costs, right? So you have to educate the clients that it's not always what you see.
Right.
But we're a service industry, and that's what I try to explain to people when they are shopping and they don't understand. They're saying, well, I see it cheaper somewhere else. I just have to kind of educate them. And listen, sometimes if the guy wants the cheapest rate, I'm not going to be the guy, right? I'll almost be the cheapest, right? I'm really competitive. So it's a very competitive industry as well.
Wow.
So I'm constantly educating the client on the process, and it's a service-based industry.
Wow. Erez, can you talk a little bit about your experience? Perhaps a story that comes to mind, somebody you've helped, something that started one way, ended somewhere else, or something that was a tremendous success for you, or something that you personally remember that comes to mind time and time again that you refer back to. Any stories?
I mean, this past year, I was on vacation. I was in Turks and Caicos, and I get a phone call from this client who was my past client who did not use me for the second home that he was buying. And I said, okay, here, relationship, the realtor, whatever. He called me up and they were about to lose the house because apparently the mortgage company messed up. And I said to him, everything you're describing to me sounds normal. I don't understand why they're having a problem. Both realtor, the listing and the selling realtor, both knew me. They called me up. Within 4 days, from start to finish, we had a loan approval, ready to close, but we had to wait 3 more days because there's all these rules now. But I was literally on vacation. I called my office. My support staff is amazing. And literally within 4 days from start to finish, we were able to close that person.
That's incredible.
And by the way, that happens maybe a couple times per year, that happens where someone messes up. And sometimes they messed up where there's no reason, like it should be okay.
Right.
And then it could be they wrote the letter that never really was real. It wasn't a real pre-approval. And then I'm like, well, we can't do it this way, but maybe we could do it this way. And you try and give alternatives. So that happens at least maybe once or twice a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it feels good to be able
to help somebody.
Especially on vacation.
Right?
I wasn't even there. But
It's fantastic.
yeah.
Could you think of a story that was the opposite, where you thought things were going one way and then everything shifted and you kind of lost the deal?
Not from my perspective, because I'm trying to think, out of my 26 years, I don't remember. I think at one time something came up last minute that we could not have known about.
Okay. Wow.
Other than that, I am proud to say every letter that I give does close. Because again, I'm really looking at the credit. I'm looking at the income. I'm asking a million questions up front to make sure, because the biggest fear I have is giving you a letter and it doesn't close. And I wasted everyone's time because my reputation is at stake. That's all I have is my reputation. So I'm very careful. And again, 26 years in, you obviously have a lot of knowledge. You're still learning all the time. Or being able to navigate and still make it work.
And problem solve, and really,
Yeah.
I think what you touched on is very powerful. Reputation, trust, these things are really at the core of this business. And if you have a good reputation, sometimes you'd rather lose a deal instead of give a letter, because you really value that part where people rely on you, realtors and people obviously trying to invest. Erez, can you share one of the best advice you've ever received? Any advice that you've ever received that you felt was really meaningful and purposeful in your personal life and obviously in your professional life?
Ooh, that's a good question. Advice that I received. I guess, always do the right thing. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I always tell people, just do the right thing. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Just, some people look, this is a very emotional process and there's a lot going on, but consumers have to understand things come up, right? It can't be a perfect scenario. There's too many hands in the pot that everything has to coordinate. So you have to be a little bit of flexible. Closing dates are always called on or about for a certain reason. It can change, right?
Yeah.
And some people, they really get upset if they don't close exactly the time that they were told. And again, our goal is to do that. And we always make that date, but then things can come up that all of a sudden there's a problem, right? I really try and set expectations to everyone involved because that's half the battle, right? Never overpromise. Never.
Yes, I agree.
Under promise, over deliver.
And always, I think I once heard, always do more than you say. Say less, do more in all areas of your life where your actions should really speak louder than everything you say or do.
Agreed.
Your child gets into the industry 20 years from now, 10 years from now, what advice would you give him?
So I'd say certainly one of the mistakes that I made was I did not keep a good file of past clients in the very beginning of my career. So one advice is to really be well organized from the day number one, continuing so you have people's information, you don't lose touch. When you're in the very beginning, you're much younger, you're not always thinking of these things.
Right.
Today, certainly it is more organized from that standpoint with all the software and different things that we have. But that's probably the one thing that I regret, not keeping data properly.
Right. Is there a book that you feel, Erez, has influenced your professional life? But are there books that you've read, perhaps one, that you can recommend to the next generation or the next set of brokers in the field that could really be meaningful to them?
So I read a book called Raving Fans. It's not certainly one that it's the be and end all, but it was very positive message about giving that client the experience where they become a raving fan.
Wow.
And that's just constantly doing a lot for the client. I've told clients, if you're my sister, this is what I would recommend you to do, right? And just be upfront, be honest, and look, sometimes you make a mistake and you pay for it.
Yeah.
But pay for it. Don't let them pay for it, right? So I'd say Raving Fans was a great book. I'm not a big reader of books when it comes to that, but I definitely read articles and as far as just educating myself on different products that are always coming to our market that can help different people that I may not be aware about. But yeah, just treat every client, whether they're buying a $300,000 property or a $2 million property, treat everyone
like
as
family.
Not just family, but as if they're the same, right?
Wow.
I shouldn't be working harder on the $2 million one because I'm going to make more money, right? Treat the guy because that $300,000 could be the $2 million in 10, 20 years from now.
Wow.
That's why small mortgages, you don't make a lot, but you don't know what opportunities come from that one transaction. So you always want to treat everyone top notch.
I love that.
And for real estate also, right?
Yeah,
because sometimes
sure.
you're dealing with a small transaction where we know it's annoying, but that transaction can turn into 3 transactions, and then in 10 years from now, $1 million home.
Wow. That actually brings me back to something that I thought of recently. Do you work with bank-owned properties as well in terms of getting pre-approvals for those?
No, because we're a mortgage broker. We're just the middleman working with several lenders. So we don't have a list of foreclosed properties.
Okay.
Maybe a bank who services a loan, they may have a list, but we're just the middle guy dealing with 50 lenders to try and securitize the best rate and terms for the client. So we're basically shopping for the client, basically, as the mortgage broker.
In which states?
So I personally am licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida.
And if somebody is looking to look you up and find out, website, contact information, we'll put that in the show notes. Where would they go?
Applywitherez.com.
Easy peasy. Love that. Love that.
Yeah, and then all my information's there.
It's there. Fantastic. We'll put that in the show notes. Fantastic. And I'm so grateful. In closing, I want to say thank you so much, Erez, for sharing some of your experiences, your perspective. And I think it's incredible to see someone that is honest in the field. 26 years, you have a tremendous record. And I think honesty is the best policy in all areas, and trust, reputation. And you've definitely shown a lot of that. And you should continue growing in all areas and inspiring the next generations, really. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Fantastic.